Hey everyone, welcome back to Coffee with Craner. This is episode 157.
Very nice.
Yes, we're climbing the road to 200. We have Marla Coffin here, serial entrepreneur, business coach, president and CEO of Winfield Victoria Holdings Limited, and as many of you may know, she's a co-founder of MARDA Management, which we can see all across the city. You have an office on, is it University?
Yep, University in Oak Street, west side, yep.
Awesome. And then aside from that, involved with a number of organizations, member of the Finance and Audit Committee for Hotel Dieu Grace Healthcare, member of 100 Women Who Care, member of the May Court Club of Windsor, so much more, heavily involved, very busy, new twins.
Yes.
So a lot of exciting things on the go.
Yeah.
First question we have to ask, where's your favorite place for coffee?
Oh, definitely Anchor.
Anchor, okay.
Yeah.
Is that
Walkerville, Lincoln.
Walkerville area, okay.
It's on Lincoln,
Yeah. And what do you love about it?
Honestly, the atmosphere more than anything.
Yeah,
it's a great spot.
it is. I've been there a few times, I think.
It's a good spot.
They used to have a Huron Church location as
so.
well. Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, talk to us. How did you start getting involved in real estate, property management? How did that start for you?
Well, I'll tell you, it really was a side job when it started. So my husband worked full-time at the University of Windsor. I worked full-time on a contract position for Chatham-Kent Victim Services. I was commuting to the Chatham area. It was my intention to really get into professional fundraising. That was kind of my background. And we found an ad that said, oh, come live in this building, be superintendents, collect rent, and you'll get free rent.
Yes.
And we were like, okay, let's do that. We can save for a house. Let's do it. Yeah, nice side job. Great. So we did that. And that's how it really got started. It was a smaller building. It was 20 or 22 units. So, not huge, but it gave us a little foray into what this world was all about. Within 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks of that, we were contacted by the property owner who said, hey, we want to get rid of the property manager that you're working for. Will you do all of the property management? And we were like, no, no, we will not.
We have our full-time jobs. Yeah.
Yes. And he said, okay, well, you have to move out. You're living in the suite that we would need for whoever's going to manage it. And I was like, oh, I don't want to move again. So we just moved. So I said, okay, fine, we'll do it. So we started doing it. And before long, that property owner said, hey, I bought a 12-unit building. Can you manage it? Hey, I bought an 18-unit building. Can you manage it? Hey, I know a guy who has a house. Can't find a manager. Can you manage it? And my answer was always yes, but I'm looking for a job in my field because my contract was up and I had just graduated from the University of Windsor with a degree in political science. So my intention really was to look for a job in my field, not to necessarily be a landlord.
Yes.
And that, really just snowballed. And before we knew it, we had an important decision to make, which is, are we actually going to do this thing? Or are we going to put that to rest and carry on with our original intentions? So we decided, you know what, let's jump in. So we came up with MARDA Management. I'm the Mar. My husband's the Da. One of us has to be. He's Dale.
Okay. I get it now.
Yeah. I'm the Mar. He's the Da. And we just started out. He continued working at the university for a few years after that. I had a couple of people come in and help me, and it really just started to snowball from there.
So when you started to manage, I think you said 12 unit, 8 unit.
Yep.
Were you overwhelmed?
Completely overwhelmed, run off my feet, but busy enough that I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I was enjoying it. I like being productive. I have high output, so that was right up my alley. I didn't have any issue with that. But I was in it for a whole area that I didn't understand. It was in, I didn't know anything about property. I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't necessarily know anything about some of the things that you need to know about when you do all the things. So plumbing problems, let's say, or collecting rent and landlord tenant board problems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a very, very steep learning curve. It was a lot of fun. It was very interesting, but it was a lot to take in quickly.
And now, where is MARDA Management today?
So MARDA now is the leading property management firm in Windsor and Essex County.
That's what I thought.
Yep, we've got hundreds and hundreds, thousands of doors that we manage. Everything from single-family house right up to 40-unit apartment complexes. We have 50 staff, so we have a great team that really helps property owners be put into a position where they have an investment, not a job, and that's key. When you buy a rental property, it's as an investment. It's not necessarily to take 2 a.m. phone calls about a toilet leaking or to chase a tenant who short paid their rent or this and that. So being able to have an outlet where your investment can be taken care of and looked after appropriately is of real value to people, both locally and from afar, because we have a lot of investors here in Windsor and Essex County that don't necessarily live here and need some boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm. You have a big team. What are some of the roles that your 50 staff have?
So we have a maintenance department, a leasing department, an operations department, and an accounting department. So leasing obviously takes care of placing tenants, advertising rental units, screening tenants, which is absolutely key. You need to screen tenants effectively. It's taken us 15 years to really hone in on an effective and reliable process, which has been absolutely crucial because the Landlord Tenant Act in Ontario, unfortunately, creates a lot of roadblocks and delays for evicting tenants. So you don't want to put the wrong person in. So screening tenants is, in my opinion, what we are absolutely fabulous at. We have a 0.9% eviction rate. So we're very, very proud of that. I mean, things do happen, obviously, you know, but we are very proud of our eviction rate, and we are able to sustain the tenancies that we have appropriately and also juggle adequate turnover, because that's necessary too when you need to turn over rents and things like that. So that's our leasing department. Our maintenance department has 10 in-house maintenance technicians. So we do basic, you know, work. We do painting, cabinets, trim work, flooring, all this sort of thing for our property. And the reason, or for our properties, and the reason that we developed an in-house team was because we found that outsourcing all of these things is too expensive for our property owners, right? Our client is our end user, the property owner, and it's an investment for them, which means their bottom line needs to make sense. So we brought 10 technicians in-house. They each kind of specialize in their own area. One is trained in basic boiler maintenance. One is trained in fire safety, things like that, to help create efficiencies when the properties have different needs for maintenance. And then, of course, operations is property management, taking care of all the day-to-day operations, the tenant complaints, concerns that get voiced, client relations, things like that, and of course, accounting. So it's a pretty robust team.
Yeah, good for you. In 15 years?
Yep, 15 years. Yeah.
Wow. And now, how did you start to build your book of properties?
So initially, I would say, you know, we got a lot of internal, local, I should say, referrals, because property, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, all, you know, inspectors, things like that, they wanted to ensure that the clients that were buying here were going to have reliable management that could ensure a productive bottom line for them and an investment, not a job. So initially, we really had a huge uptick in clients coming in because of those referrals. And then from there, we really had been able to build a name for ourselves. So we were able to continue having growth because of our own reputation. But obviously, that takes some time to build at first.
What is the most challenging part of running a management company? Because, like you said, there's thousands of doors, 50 staff.
Unequivocally, the most difficult thing is that tenants don't understand that you are not the property owner. So spending money at the property is not up to you. Now, obviously, we have minimum requirements. If a property owner is unwilling to fix something that is unacceptable to us, we will part ways with them. But there are a lot of things that tenants want that owners can't or won't or don't want to necessarily do to their home, especially when they're in these tumultuous times of high interest rates and higher expenses, high inflationary times. We're all seeing it at the gas pumps and at the grocery stores, and investment owners are just the same. So it's even a higher bar for them to not necessarily be keen on doing over and above extra things to the homes. And often residents that live there don't necessarily understand that it's really not MARDA. It's each individual property owner. That's definitely the toughest thing for sure.
Okay. So there's that battle between tenant management, tenant and owner, owner and management.
Correct.
So it's like a triangle,
because the tenant never really deals with the property owner directly. We're always in the middle. So, you know, when they want something done and we're the ones to tell them no, or, you know, it's not a reasonable request, we're not upgrading your countertops. Like, you know, for example, they were
you must have some requests that
lots of interesting requests.
Yeah. I want a flat screen on my fridge or something. I don't know.
Lots of interesting stuff for sure.
Been 15 years. What are some things you learned along the way?
People management has been the number one And I think that kind of comes alongside any business that grows.
Yeah.
Has been so fascinating. And I've really evolved as a leader because of that. I've been in a position where I've gone from, not knowing, not having a ton of business acumen, I don't have a degree in business. I didn't have a ton of work experience even. I was right out of university and kind of just stumbled into this. So I really have had to learn along the way, do a lot of personal self-reflection and use that as an opportunity to parlay into how I manage my teams. And now I've actually stepped away from the day-to-day business and I have people running the day-to-day teams, but that's certainly been a long process for sure.
Mm-hmm. And on top of the challenge of just the challenges you face as an entrepreneur in general, were there any times where you had to pivot, change the way the business is headed?
Sure. There's no question that along the way we've had to morph and adjust and pivot based on a number of things, from needs and demands of our clients, right? When clients come forward and say, look, I'm going to say this was around 2015, we had a number of clients voice the need for inspecting properties on a consistent basis. So they wanted us in the units going through at a cost to them was fine, but they wanted us to have eyes on. And that was something that was new that we hadn't done previously on a regular, consistent schedule, say quarterly or twice a year, something like that. So we instituted that in 2015 based on surely on client demand, and that was a significant stream of our business. So that's just one example of many. Of course, there's also been market-based changes and shifts that we've had to make. As the vacancy rate has very interestingly fluctuated when we came into this business, the vacancy rate in Windsor was one of the highest in the country, like double digits and beyond. So we were literally telling people we would buy them a TV to move into a unit. We would give them free last month's rent. We would give them grocery gift cards. Literally, we were doing tons of different stuff to try to attract a tenant base because the guy next door was vacant and the lady across the street was vacant and the person upstairs was vacant. So you were literally just desperately trying to find tenants to populate your residences. And that's not even taking into consideration having a strict enough screening process that you don't have to evict people. So that is a very different climate than we're in today. Today, Windsor has a very low vacancy rate of, certainly less than 3%, which is unheard of in Windsor in the last many, many decades. And so we are in a very different climate now in terms of what it takes to fill units.
Do you see the vacancy rate increasing in the future? Or will this, it's tough to predict, but is this something that you see being stable for quite a long time?
It is not tough to predict for me. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
In Canada, we are 3.5 million housing units short by the year 2030. So as housing continues to be in such high demand, as we continue to see challenges with issuance of building permits, as we continue to have, although it is starting to come down, higher interest rates and therefore higher cost of funds for people that are building new residences, there will continue to be high demand. And as there continues to be high demand, there will continue to be low vacancy. So I do not foresee vacancy going down any time in the near future, or changing really any time in the near future.
Yeah.
Windsor, as it is, in my opinion, punches above its weight when it comes to things like immigration. And, we have a lot of people coming to our city. We have a lot of people coming to our country, but I really think Windsor outperforms many other cities. So I don't see that demand going down. And as long as the demand doesn't go down, the vacancy rate won't go up.
Okay. That's good to know. Because I know you go to the U.S., Detroit specifically.
Sure.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, well, it's very, very interesting. Yeah, for sure.
What do you love most about the role?
My current role, I'm in a very different role than I've been in for the last 15 years.
Okay.
So to give you a little background, I ran the day-to-day operations of the business. I grew the business. Absolutely, it was me. Buck stopped at me for everything.
Yeah.
About 16 or 18 months ago, my husband and I promoted a person from within who's been working with us since 2018, Judy. She's absolutely fabulous. She's our managing director. She took over for me from a day-to-day operational standpoint.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, so I stepped out of the day-to-day operations of the business. I probably work a couple hours a week at MARDA now.
Yep.
It gives me an opportunity to work on strategy, expansion opportunities, growth changes, things like that.
Good for you.
So I am in a very different role than I've been in for the last 15 years, and I couldn't be happier because it gives me time flexibility to spend with my family. I have a 5-year-old and 9-month-old twins.
Yes.
So it gives me flexibility in that respect. It also gives me an opportunity over the last, 8 or so months, 7 or 8 months, to really start focusing on helping other business owners. And that's how I've evolved into, as much as anything, a bit of a business coach and a consultant, because being able to share the things that I've learned over the course of the last 15 years has been absolutely pivotal. If I can help other business owners collapse decades into days, we are all laughing, because at the end of the day, every entrepreneur, every business owner, every leader knows the challenges of running into your own walls and figuring it out for yourself. And it is tough. It's a long process, and it can be painful. The hard thing about hard things is they're really hard. So, we need to all look to each other. And I've found that that's really where my true zone of genius is. That's where my real passion is being able to contribute, especially here in Windsor, Essex, is where I was born and raised. So being able to help other business owners locally has really brought a lot of joy for me.
No, it's appreciative that you're sharing that advice with others, and you're not holding it back, holding it in, not sharing that wealth of knowledge.
I always say there's lots of room at the top, Lyndon.
Yeah.
Lots of room. There's no secrets. At the end of the day, I want people to learn from the good and the bad, the decisions I've made, the things that I've done, the things that I could do differently. It's a privilege to be able to share those with other business owners that are growing, because if they can learn from me without making the mistake themselves, then you're really cooking with gas. So
yes. Final question for you.
Absolutely.
If somebody is looking to enter the property management space, whether it's boots on the ground or they want to actually start up a property management company, I guess we'll narrow it down to like maybe 2 or 3 things that you think that individual should do right off the bat.
So number one, I would say, for any business owner, property management or otherwise, you want to structurally set your company up appropriately. So you really need to think through, what's the ownership breakdown look like? Do you have a business partner? Do you have a shareholder agreement? What do you really need to do to plant those seeds appropriately? A lot of people get into business for, example, myself, on accident. It just happened. And so you're focused on all these things you don't know. The last thing you're thinking about is your minute book. Or, do you have the right power team in place? Do you have a lawyer that you have available to you if you need one, or I should say when you need one? Because in business, that is a reality, right? Do you have the right people on your finance team, like a mortgage broker, like a banker? Do you have those people available to you when you need them? And like I say, more than if you need them. So I would tell absolutely anyone getting into business that, but certainly
create that circle of trust. Yeah.
You have to create the circle of trust. I want to be one phone call away from whatever I need, whenever I need it. But that takes digging the well. That takes relationship building over time. That isn't just, hey, I found a guy and, now you really have to pour in on both sides. It's a two-way street. But certainly specific to property management, I would say you need to sort out your screening process. It's probably the most important component, in my opinion, in my industry, because when you rent to tenants just because they have first and last, or just because you get a good feeling, or just because they had a good story, whatever the reason may be, it might work out, but most of the time it won't. I'll tell you, I mentioned earlier that our eviction rate is 0.9%. That is of tenants we place. We often inherit tenants. So if you buy a property, you have a renter, then you hire us, we've inherited your tenant. Our eviction rate is 5 times what it is if we place the tenant. 5 times.
Wow.
So definitely have to develop a strong screening process and consider what's rigorous enough that you're going to be comfortable moving someone into someone else's asset. However, with that said, what is not so rigorous that people won't bother with the process, right? If you're too difficult to people, then just won't bother. So it's a fine balance, and I think that's probably the most important component in my industry, I would say.
Circle of trust, focus on your screening.
Definitely.
Yeah, it can be scary.
Totally. And because of the way the Residential Tenancies Act works, and, there are a lot of ways that tenants can prolong their occupancy, and that can be really difficult. It's not, landlords are out there having mortgages to pay and bills to pay and things to cover, whether the rent gets paid or not. And that can be really difficult always, but certainly in these high inflationary times.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your advice, Marla, and sharing your wealth of knowledge, 15 years in the property management business. She has a lot on the go, but you've entered the coaching space, which is amazing.
Thank you.
And I hope that those that are watching, that are real estate agents, mortgage brokers, or you're looking to create your own management company, that you were able to take away some nuggets and enjoyed this. So thank you very much.
Definitely. And anyone that's watching can visit me at marlacoffin.com as well.
Oh, amazing.
Yep. Or follow me, DM me at Marla Coffin. I'm more than happy. I've got some good content out there. I'm more than happy to chat with anybody that's starting a business or is in business, just trying to figure it out, because we're all in this together.
Yes. Tough road, but thanks for being open about that. So
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
marlacoffin.com.
Yes.
Okay, visit it. Thanks, everyone.